Greg McMichael guilty. Count 7, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant Greg McMichael guilty. Count 8, false imprisonment. We, the jury, find the defendant Greg McMichael guilty. Count 9, criminal attempt to commit a felony. We, the jury, find the defendant Greg McMichael guilty. This 24th day of November, 2021, signed by the foreperson.
Bruce DelValle, who's a constitutional law expert who joins us from Maryland. Bruce, you know, there's obviously so much emotion in a case like this. We were speaking to a guest yesterday who is a professor of African American studies at Temple University, and she said, even in my mind, when I think that the jury is made up of 11 white men and women and one black man, I wonder if justice will be served. Does the Constitution of the United States protect the minority population of the U.S.?
Yes, absolutely it does, and thank you for having me on. It certainly does. It is illegal and unconstitutional to prohibit someone from serving on a jury based upon their race or their religious beliefs. Sometimes it happens that the makeup of the jury may not reflect the local community. In this case, it was somewhat short, but I think the result was just. I think juries in America, that we have the crown jewel of our constitutional protections is our judiciary, and our jury system generally gets it right. And this time they certainly did. And I think it's something to be very proud of.
But clearly you'll be well aware that I don't know if I can call it a majority, but many African Americans don't trust the American judicial system, certainly not when it comes to cases like George Floyd's. Now, clearly we know what happened there, that the defendant, Derek Chauvin, was found guilty of murder. But in so many cases, I mean, literally hundreds, white police officers have gotten away with killing unarmed black people.
Well, a lot of those cases are the disconnect is whether or not they're charged. And there is a disconnect in how they're charged. In many cases, they're overcharged. And what that means is the prosecution tries to secure a conviction on something that's difficult, if not impossible, to obtain. And remember, the judicial system doesn't make law or policy. It simply applies the law to the facts of the case. So the judicial system does work. The mistrust of the judicial system in America, I think, is not well placed. What happens is there's a failing of explaining what the judicial system does. It simply reviews the case that's before them. It's like a play. When I go to trial, I put on a play. I tell a story. I try to convince the jury or the judge to believe my story. And it does depend on how well that story is crafted. And a lot of times the prosecution in this country, they have fallen into a very negative trap of trying to do the spectacular and to make themselves famous and to self-aggrandize themselves rather to simply seek the truth. The trial is the crucible of truth. When I worked for the federal judicial system, when I clerked for the chief judge of the Southern District of Florida, I was honored to do that. We tried to find the truth. And I will tell you, juries almost always get it right in the United States. The disconnect is often in the executive, the Department of Justice, the prosecution system, and in the police force.
Bruce, don't talk to us now as a legal expert. Talk to us as an American. How far away do you think your country is? And forget about legal justice. How far do you think America is from racial justice, from social justice?
I think, sadly, that we're very far away, but we're making progress. I am a member of a minority. I'm Hispanic. I grew up in Florida. The part of Florida I grew up in is predominantly Hispanic from many years ago, the early Spanish settlers. That is not to say that I truly understand what it's like to be a black person in America. It is very difficult. I talk to my friends, my law partner. What do you do when your children go out, when your boys go out? He says, I pray. Because we in America have the stain of racial injustice. It still persists. Things are better. Things are much, much better. But we still have to overcome the stain of racial injustice. And I think we see slowly the building blocks. This case is a building block. What happened with George Floyd is a building block. People are learning that you simply cannot take someone's rights away because of the color of their skin or the nature of their beliefs. And it's a slow process. I wish it weren't that slow. But I think in one way, Mr. Nawaz, it is reflective of the fact that we are an assemblage of people from all over the world. A great many disparate people came, and they're coming here, and we're still trying to figure out how to do that right. This great American experiment continues. There are some hiccups. There are some problems. I think we're starting to get it right. I think the generations that follow do not see color as my generation did. I know my children, they don't see it. It's just not a part of their life. Racial prejudice is not an everyday part of the fabric of America. And I don't think I'm being overly optimistic or a Pollyanna when I say that. We have a lot of work to do, but we are continuing forward. It's part of our greatness, our differences. I think we're beginning to learn to move forward. But the answer to your question is we are a long way away from being complete.
Bruce, it's always interesting and instructive to have you on TRT. Well, thank you so much, as always, Bruce DelValle from Maryland.